something that really sticks with me is that the fact that anger is actually a secondary emotion.
Yes, that's what I learned from. You're the second person I've ever heard say that.
Really?
Yeah, the first person was my anger management therapist.
Oh yeah. So.
Yes.
Will be $75. No, just kidding. I'm totally kidding. No, I think it's a great thing for everybody to
PayPal
know.
link, I'm just kidding.
Link below. It's so good to acknowledge that and to know that, because really when we become angry, that's not the first thing that we're feeling. There's something else underneath that, whether it was disappointment, sadness, fear,
yes,
like worried, betrayed, all of these things. But anger is kind of like what seems like the easiest to access because it's just so quick and so passionate. And and also the stigmas of like, you're not allowed to be weak because crying is weak and you can't do that, right? Or even just like being the bigger person. Like, why does it take so much for us to be like,
a lot of effort.
Actually, when you really, I'm a Leo and I'm stubborn as hell. So I kind of like, I feel like I have to deal with that all the time in myself to be like, no, just calm down.
Yeah, dude, like when I heard that was like one of my biggest breakthroughs. I'm like, because then I started like questioning, like, what's the underlying motion of my anger this time?
Yeah.
Like, what am I afraid of? Is it because I'm afraid of, some of the things I get triggered on is like my time being wasted. Like, because I'm very protective of my time. My schedule is like from 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Like, this was on my schedule. Like, I sent you the cool invite. This was on my schedule.
Yeah.
I'm like, I had to make sure this is time blocked. So like, that's one of the things. Another one is like, if I'm losing time, spending time with family, like or I just don't like, a lot of my triggers really are coming from, I think just from my current awareness is wasting time. Because I'm hyper aware that I don't get it back. It's like,
I'm gonna leave you with a question, and I don't want you to answer it right now, but whose voice in your head are you hearing? That you need to be organized. You need to have this time structure. You need to have this.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's your own. Maybe it's
I think it's something I imposed on myself. When I started reading more books on like building your own business, and then being that time is your most valuable non-renewable
being
resource.
Meticulous about that. Yeah.
So and then I used to be very hyper protective of it, where I would be very easily like, it was worse. Like, this is what got me in trouble. I landed in jail, got me to 52 weeks of everything.
Yeah.
So so that's where, like, it's been a process, but I've been when it's my time and I put it together. Like, for me to do work, I get to be intentional, but I also have learned to be a lot more flexible. That shit fucking happens.
Yeah.
Like, today I was gonna work on these certain things, and actually I ended up pushing it in the afternoon because a prospect called, and I'm like, okay, now I have a pitch meeting.
Yeah.
So okay, everything got jumbled around in the afternoon. So I was like, okay, whatever. It's like, the things, at least I got one thing done.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be all done. Just one thing to move forward. An inch is an inch.
Oh yeah, that's great. I've definitely had those times. I've broken down in my car because I was so adamant about, these are the things I need to get done today, and I probably only did one, but like really like treated myself like not compassionately at all. I don't know what the other word for that is, but so that's quite interesting. I like to call that like structured improv. It's like you have an idea of where you want to go, but it's also like able to be maneuvered. And
like, one of my favorite sayings is like from Tony Robbins, I think, is like, be attached to the goal but be flexible in getting there.
Yes.
Because it's like, if being rigid is like, just means you're not making room for possibility or growth
or opportunities
or even more importantly, the people who love you.
Yeah.
Because it's like if you don't, if because I think one of the things that I think really woke me up is when I was over prioritizing work and my son needed to go to the doctor. And his mom was like, it's breaking my heart that you're prioritizing your work, then bring him to the doctor to get checked in. And I'm like, oh shit. So
that's great communication though.
Like,
instead of like, you are not prioritizing this, you're not doing this, da da da.
Like, we like way like, before we even like decided to just be co-parents, like we went to a lot of couples therapy and a lot of individual therapy. We were like very, very much on the same page of trying to be good communicators.
Good, yeah.
which is I'm very grateful for, because now we can display that to Jordan to be good at communicating. And he's such like a like off on a tangent now. Like he's such a sweet little boy. Like his mom recently had gone to a car accident and her back was hurting.
Oh, okay.
And he like lifted her face and was like, "It's okay, Mom. We got this. I love you."
Oh my
like,
God.
We didn't teach you that, but she's yeah.
Oh,
like it's
that's really great.
Yeah, and like I think it's like one of my goals. Like I think that's what becoming a dad woke me up in having to learn how to manage my emotions better.
Yeah.
Because I used to think controlling your emotions meant stop.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like more rather now I've learned it's like learning how to be calm in the middle of the storm, kind of thing.
Santosha. I literally just had this yoga class the other day. Santosha. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. It's exactly that, like staying calm in the midst of chaos. Like there's so much happening, but being able to find like that zen for yourself.
Yes.
Throughout all of that, yeah.
Is that like a religious practice? What is
I think it's just from yoga.
Oh
practices, yeah. So.
Oh wow! Because I always called it Stoicism. Like
Stoicism?
There's a philosophy called Stoicism. The common misconception of Stoicism is like you're stoic, you're cold, you're detached. That's like the misconception, because the Stoics have a high priority of being even keeled, and their focus is always on what they can control, not on external circumstances.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's one, and it was my favorite comparison of it is if the Zen Buddhist was the quiet monk in the beautiful mountains, the Stoic is the calm man in the middle of chaos.
Oh,
because
okay.
Like the Stoicism was adapted by emperors in the Roman times, so they can learn how to. Like one of the most famous ones is Marcus Aurelius. He was a Stoic. He always kept reminding himself he hired someone to always tell him, "Remember, you're only human."
Oh wow!
That was his only job.
Somebody for that.
Yeah.
He had one job.
Yeah. You're only human. Grapes. But yeah, that's what I love about Stoicism. It's like because it's one thing to go to a retreat, feel all the rah and feel calm, and then you're thrown back into the chaos.
Exactly.
And how do you
how am I supposed to do? Bring this over to this? Yeah.
So that's what fascinated me about Stoicism is that's cool. They're very. Some people would say pessimistic, but it's like I think they grounded in. These can happen.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite sayings, like their old sayings, like, "Yeah, I'll take a ship to make it to the other island, unless it sinks."
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that. There's the goal, but unless things happen too.
Right.
So like one of my favorite things that they did, I mentioned this in the previous podcast, is that they do something called fear setting.
Mm-hmm.
Not fear setting, is it?
That sounds familiar.
I think it's called it's fear setting. So whereas goals, we set the goals. Here's how we're gonna do it. Fear setting is like, here's what I'm afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
Worst case scenario, but you write things down how you recover from it.
Yeah.
So it's very much the whole Yoda thing, like define your fears and you can conquer it.
Well, it's the same thing with anxiety. They're fear thoughts, right? What if? Like,
yeah.
It's all these things, but like, it's trying to battle that of like objectively what is happening here, because you're starting to think about something that's happening in the future instead of what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And so I suffer from anxiety a lot too, so I think that's like what I know that's what I've been working on a lot, is like making sure that whatever is happening in this moment, like I'm only using that information instead of the what ifs. And also, like, if you're thinking about the what ifs, what if it, and usually those are fear-based, so it's negative. What if this negative outcome happens? Also, well, what if the positive
is true?
Yeah.
Yes.